Hey, welcome back to lesson 2 on knowledge. Let me share my screen with you right away and we will get going. Okay, hang on one sec. Let's get it up here and we should be good to go. Okay, 7 steps. It's a tongue twister. I keep tripping over it. 7 steps for success as a neurofeedback expert. Knowledge. So I've already said teaching people about neurofeedback can be challenging. If you have started to do this yet, you know what I mean. So when I started my practice, I didn't know, and my practice is just neurofeedback, or it used to be. Now it's more integrated, but when I was explaining to people what I did, it would be a 20-minute description that didn't even make sense to me because I didn't know how to communicate it. That is what we're going to talk about right here. Okay, so what we are going to contemplate is conversationally, you want to be able to have sound bites at every single stage of this process. And like I was just describing, if someone asked me what I did, I would kind of go on and on about my credentials and what I was trying to do and brains, and it was very confusing. Now I have a very tight elevator speech, and it is the first soundbite, and I'm going to teach you it here. So now if someone says, hey Trish, what do you do for a living? I say, I use neuroscience and computers to rewire people's brains so they no longer struggle with ADHD and anxiety. And then people say, seriously? And I say, yes. ADHD is a brain that's using too much slow processing speed, and anxiety is a brain that's using too much fast processing speed. My computer systems teach a person's brain to use perfect processing speed so that then they can process everything in real time and symptoms go away. People feel and perform better. And then the person says, really? And I say, yep, it's all proven by science. And that's it. I do not go on and on and on. Then if people are interested in coming in, I just refer them to my website because it is much too much information. More is not more in this case. And like I said in community awareness, more is more when it comes to community awareness. More information at each step just confuses people. You do not want to give them a lot of information at each step. You want to give them enough information to get to the next step. So remember that. So in your elevator speech, you want to pique their interest. What is she talking about? And if the person struggles with ADHD and anxiety, you've now told them that you use the state-of-the-art tech that's out there to get rid of it for people. That's enough. So in the Neurofeedback Expert Program, we give you a script for every single step of the way. In this short course, I'm going to challenge you in the downloadable to come up with your own phone script so that you are on point with the information that you need to be able to provide on the phone. And when someone calls into your office on the phone, is that where you want to tell them everything about everything? No. What is your goal in that step? Your goal in that step is to get them to schedule a brain map. So you have to remember what the next goal is in the interaction that you're in and just stick to that and not everything else. And we're going to go through that in just a second. Okay, so the scripts use psychological triggers. So like I just told you in my elevator speech, I am telling people that I have technology that's proven by science to get rid of those 2 challenges. So the psychological trigger in that one is our favorite, mine and my husband's favorite. It's called curiosity. You make the person curious as to what you're talking about. And you know, sometimes I do continue. I usually don't, I will tell you. Most people I interact with don't even know that I work. Isn't that ironic? Because I have so many kids. So people who just see me in the community assume I'm a stay-at-home mom. Excuse me. Okay, so, but if I'm going to continue, I say, yeah, the first step in our process is something that's called a brain map. And that shows us if a person actually has the irregular brain pattern that causes ADHD or anxiety. Now they're curious, do I have the brain pattern that causes ADHD and anxiety? Because I have it. I wonder if I have the brain pattern. And that is curiosity. And honestly, that's what you want to do on the phone. You want to get that person to schedule a brain map. So you want them to want a brain map, and that's it. Okay, so you can also pique this curiosity or give sound bites in print, in articles. And there's an adage that when people start in practice, they have more time and less money. And then as you keep going, you have more money and less time. So if that tends to be your case, what you want to do is find print mechanisms that are free. And a lot of smaller newsletters are looking for qualified articles by qualified people. So what that means is if you write a snappy article that is relevant to ADHD and anxiety, many neighborhood newsletters or Moms Club newsletters are looking for pieces to put into their newsletters. So that's a place that you could probably place some information for free. So think about that. And in your emails, we talk about building knowledge. This is what we're talking about. So someone now is, their interest is piqued and they want to know, but you have to provide the next step of information for them. So we have a PDF that tells people how neurofeedback works. So you could create something like that, and it needs to be short and snappy, just enough to get them to come in for an evaluation. And another thing that we have, and this is deliberate, once a person calls in, I have a policy that my team is not supposed to spend too much time on the phone with people. And sometimes they violate it. They haven't in a while, but the most recent time that my team member violated it, she's on the phone listening to the woman's life story. And I looked at her like, get back to script, and which I don't typically stop them in the middle of it. But she was so off script. She was listening to this person's life story. I could hear her giving information on pricing and insurance at the beginning of the phone call. That is not how we do it. We have a script so that when a person calls in, we immediately grab the reins, because the first question tends to be, how much does it cost and does insurance cover it? So we have a policy where we say, is it okay if I give you a little bit of information and then I'll provide that financial information for you? And people always say yes, but then we move them through our phone script process, and we only spend a little bit of time on the phone with them, getting their information so that we can communicate with them and getting them to schedule a brain map. Anything beyond that is in our decision guide that we send to them. And so my team members know that. They'll say, I'm going to send you a decision guide that has the insurance codes in it for you. And all the pricing's in the decision guide. So you can look and contemplate all of that to see if our services feel like a good fit for you. So they're not using the phone time to provide all the information in the world. They're using it to get the person to schedule the brain map. And why? Yes, we're trying to build a fantastic neurofeedback practice, but the person on the phone needs neurofeedback. We are trying to schedule them for them, not for us. So when you remember that, you can be passionate about trying to get that person to come in. And I believe I need to be in that person's life, and my practice needs to be in that person's life if they are going to move on to be able to achieve their full potential. Because most people, if they don't come into our practice for neurofeedback, their only other route is medication. And I'm going to tell you about that in a second. So let's move to the next slide. So we want to use sound bites, bits of knowledge at a time. So I challenge you to think of knowledge as movement in this case. So the information that you're providing is just designed to move them to the next step. Think of knowledge as movement to get that person to commit to work with you. And then when they're working with you, knowledge as movement through the process to give them a great office experience, help them get the outcomes that they want, and to move them through an awesome experience. Okay, so just bits of knowledge at a time. We've already talked about psychological triggers. We started to curiosity. Another one that I love to use is social proof with novelty. So social proof is showing them a Harvard article that says that neurofeedback works. They're out there. Find it and provide, Harvard as social proof that they're one of the premier universities in this country thinks neurofeedback's awesome. So you can provide that. And then with novelty means you're telling them something they didn't already know, and that's the piquing the interest piece. So by telling them how a brain map works and providing that information and using an analogy. I use an analogy that brain maps are like x-rays of brain performance, and you would never just go back to work if you broke your leg without getting an x-ray to know if it needed to be set. So if you have a head injury, you need to have an EEG so that you know if your brain's performance has been shifted and is broken, like a broken leg, and what it needs to be able to be brought online, like a cast. And people could wrap their minds around that completely. Okay, so what are the steps of the way? You may have different steps in your office. You may not have any of these steps yet. The point of this aspect of this slide is think about what your steps are and what they should be. So the steps that we teach in the Neurofeedback Expert Program is, number one, acute EEG brain map. Number two, a consultation. And you might be thinking, why is consultation 2 after acute EEG brain map? Because I don't want to do consultations if I don't have to. I want people just to schedule a brain map. But if people can't commit to a brain map, then they're offered a consultation. And I will tell you, consultations in my office require a $100 deposit, which again is a psychological trigger. It's sunken costs. And we're going to talk about it in a couple slides. So if a person won't commit to acute EEG brain map, then they are offered a consultation. They put the deposit down, and that way my time is secure, and I will sit with the person for 15 minutes. And actually I have slides that I use to inform people, and I only listen to them a little bit, but they can see if my services are a good fit for them. Then there's a report of findings. We have a script for the report of findings, which basically is to get them to commit to neurofeedback care, and then we go from there. Then our first session, our technicians have a script. What's the goal of the first session? To make sure the person feels comfortable in the session. That's the whole goal. They have to feel good in the process of neurofeedback. That's the goal. And to move them to the second session, where we first provide their trend graph for analysis. And people are always so excited about that, so they're super excited to come back for their second session. Then we do regular progress check-ins where we're showing people their trend graphs and analyzing them briefly. That's why they're check-ins, not meetings. Analyzing them briefly and keeping them in the know on how their progress is shaping up neurologically, and they're keeping us in the know on how things are shaping up behaviorally at home or at work. Then there's larger progress meetings where we're analyzing the trends over time, and that's another place that they can share behavioral outcomes with us. And then program transitions. So there will be points in the program where less neurofeedback is necessary, is the goal, and there may be times in the program where more neurofeedback is warranted. So these are transition points, and they deserve discussion. So there needs to be scripts so you know exactly what to say to the person. So for example, if a person needs more sessions, the whole goal of that meeting is to get them to get more sessions, not everything else in the whole world. So everything should be on point. Okay, so that is knowledge. And people, when they are looking for neurofeedback care, they do not know what they're looking for. They just know they have a problem. Whereas when a person's looking for a car, they know that they need a car. So that's the difference. People have problems. You need to present neurofeedback as the solution to them, and you really have to educate them on what neurofeedback is and how it can help them reach their goals. Okay, so stay tuned, because in the next lesson, we're going to jump into the next step and we're going to keep rolling. So get moving on to the next lesson, and I'll see you there.